PlayStation's next big exclusive comes out soon, but it seems a lot of people aren't familiar with exactly what to expect from it. Well, today I'm going to tell you everything we know and you need to know about Days Gone, from its story, its world, right down to its various gameplay mechanics. Days Gone is being created by Bend Studio. Bend Studio previously worked on titles such as the notoriously bad Bubsy 3D back in the day, and in more recent times, the likes of Uncharted Golden Abyss, which was thankfully a hell of a lot better than the former. On the surface, Days Gone may look very similar to The Last of Us, and while they absolutely have similarities, I think it would be doing it a disservice to simply write it off as a copy, as in many regards, they are seemingly quite different. The game places you in the hands of Deacon St. John, a former bounty hunter and biker, 2 years after the world is hit with a pandemic that kills most of humanity, transforming many of the remaining into zombie-like creatures called Freakers. Deacon is not only fighting to physically survive in a now treacherous environment, but also fighting for a reason to go on after suffering the loss of a loved one, and will no doubt play a very important plot point throughout. In fact, his relationship with his wife Sarah will be explored via several playable flashbacks in one of the numerous storylines you can delve into. While the initial premise of Days Gone may echo the beginning of The Last of Us, unlike that game, it is completely open world, and you'll use Deacon's drifter bike as your main form of traversal. His motorbike won't just be limited to getting you from point A to point B, however, as it will serve as means of holding your inventory, such as ammunition and supplies. You can also customize Deacon's bike in numerous ways, from giving it a new paint job, to increasing its speed, improving its handling, or even making its exhaust quieter to attract less attention from enemies. Just as in real life, your vehicle will need maintenance, and at times you may need to repair it if it receives damage. Alternatively, it will also need fuel that you'll need to scavenge for, although that may be harder than it sounds, as you won't be the only one looking for it. As you are travelling across the world, there is a fully dynamic weather system in place that can impact how the bike handles. For example, riding during torrential rain or heavy snow will be much more difficult than during a typical sunny day. Weather aside, you'll also discover many types of locations such as dense forests, rivers and waterfalls, lava fields, caves and towns. Of course, during your time exploring, you'll encounter the aforementioned Freakers plenty, and so far we know several different types of them you'll run into. These include the most common swarmers that tend to stay in groups, newts, infected adolescents which are less active, generally attacking when you are close to them or your health is low, screamers which can stun Deacon and alert others, and breakers, huge muscular freakers that can take and deal out a ton of damage. In addition, animals can be infected too, and there are again several types we know of, such as runners, which are infected wolves that are extremely quick, much quicker than Deacon, rager bears, which are much like breakers, capable of withstanding a lot of torture, and finally ravens that are infected birds, able to swarm and overwhelm Deacon. Unlike the cordyceps in The Last of Us, which was slow and tended to stay in small groups, Freakers can be seen in huge hordes and move at a much greater speed. Freakers won't be your only threat to contend with, however, as you'll have to deal with other human survivors as well, who will use all manner of weapons against you, such as various different firearms, any melee weapons they can get a hold of, or even just their fists to take you out. One of the biggest times you'll tackle enemies is when you come across Freaker nests or bandit camps, where you'll be tasked with completely clearing out the area in any way you see fit. Doing so, at least in the case of Freaker nests, will turn them into points where you can fast travel. You'll also be able to tackle main missions in a number of different ways, with the ability to take completely alternate routes that, coupled with the changing weather, can lead to different encounters and open up whole new approaches to the mission. You can pick up the game on the 26th of this month exclusively for the PS4, and it should be a pretty easy purchase for many, as outside of Mortal Kombat 11, there really isn't any other big AAA games releasing during the same period. In terms of playtime, it is said to last around 30 hours, so a good, typical amount you'd expect from an open world game of this nature. Amongst that 30-ish hours of gameplay, 6 hours is said to be comprised of cutscenes, which if anything, goes to show just how narrative driven it will be. DLC has been confirmed to be coming sometime after launch, although no further details have been shared on what kind of DLC it will be. Hopefully it will be story related like Spider-Man. Being one of PlayStation's big IPs, it will naturally support the PS4 Pro. In fact, it's one of the titles Sony has used to represent what the Pro can do in its marketing trailers for it. In terms of the specs themselves, we don't have any hard numbers, but based off of previous builds, it appears it will run at a dynamic resolution with potentially some form of checkerboarding, as you likely expect from many games on the Pro at this point. It will also support HDR, and if it's as good as Horizon Zero Dawn's or God of War's HDR implementation, it should look pretty fantastic. Days Gone has kinda slipped under the radar recently. There's been relatively little talk about it, probably because it's been delayed a couple of times now, with it originally due to release last year. That said, I have a feeling it's going to be a dark horse and become quite the sleeper hit of 2019. That's it for today. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for a notification each time a video goes live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.